Welcome back. It's time now for James Creedon with Media Watch. James, I know as ever you have a lot of stories to get through tonight, so I will be quiet and hand over to you with the line. 700 arrests even over the weekend in the Occupy Wall Street protests, and it continues to grow.
Well, we've been looking at this for a week or two, Mark, and it does continue to grow. I mean, slowly but surely. And we'll have a look now at the New York Times website. You've got one of their columnists, Nicholas Kristof. Now, he's giving advice to these Wall Street protesters because he's saying, guys, you know, it's all very well to be taking over a square in the south of Manhattan, but you have to get your message out very clearly. And his point is that the message is not very clear and that everybody is sort of jumping onto this issue. So he gives advice in this particular video, well worth watching online, about how to make those demands more precise. And if you have a look at some of the pictures that we've been seeing from what happened on Saturday evening on Brooklyn Bridge, 700 protests, and some amazing photos coming out from that. And you can see how diverse those demands are in this photo. End American military aid. Another demand is, to stop racism in the United States. Another, again, against capitalism. So really, it seems to be a kind of a catch-all movement at this point, which is, I suppose, dangerous because it could discredit them. And if you have a look on Storyful, this website is talking about, do I look like a hipster? Do all of these protesters, are they just a bunch of hipsters, really? And what they're calling trustafarians. I like that word because it's a mixture of Rastafarian and trust fund kid.
Sure.
In other words, rich kids who have a lot of time on their hands and they're just out there protesting. So that's the danger. Now, what's interesting is they have an interview here in the Washington Post. It was conducted this morning with one of the people who was at the very initial stage of this movement. He wrote a book called Direct Action, and he's an anthropologist, and he said, look, obviously, Wall Street is just a symbol. This is getting people together under a sort of a banner against the powerful in general, against the corrupt in general, against financiers, and it's about hopelessness and all that. So it's a very interesting interview. He speaks too in this interview, David Graeber is his name, about the criticism that this movement is getting in the press. Now he's saying, look, many people are saying this is a bunch of kids who don't know anything about economics. You
could say that about the bankers, couldn't you?
You could say it about a lot of people, I suppose, but that they do know what they're against. Now he's saying, look, it's in that sense it's very similar to the globalization movement. People know what they don't want. They mightn't be experts in the nitty-gritty of the economics, but they do have very clear ideas about what they're against. Now, I thought one of the most interesting points in this piece was, he said, because it's growing so much, this movement, it's now going to take in the unions. But the thing is, this movement is direct action. It's bottom up, whereas the unions are top down. And he said there's a risk if you mix these two together. Unions are there to negotiate. They want kind of a solution at the end of the day. Whereas movements like this, we saw it in Tahrir Square, they're there until the very end. They have their demands and they're never going to cede. So he's kind of saying that it could be difficult as this movement grows to keep it consistent and to keep it grassroots if the unions are brought in, for example. It's a very interesting piece.
Anarchy in the UK, anarchy everywhere.
Absolutely.
Never mind the Sex Pistols sang in 77.
Well,
yeah?
They seem to be thinking along those lines in Wall Street.
James Creedon, as ever, thank you very much indeed.
Mark.
That's James Creedon with Media Watch. Stay with us. We have lots more news to come here on Live from Paris on France 24.